Gentlemen, please stand for worship the Mayor and colleagues.
Good morning, everyone. Please can you remain standing for praise by my chaplain, Father Michael Phillips, before we start the meeting.
Press the button. Before I say the prayer, just to introduce what I'm going to say with this very few words. At the time of Jesus, when a baby was 40 days old, it was taken to the temple and presented by the parents. And the parents would say thank you to God for the baby which had survived, unlike so many children at that time. And yesterday was 40 days after Christmas. And so it was called yesterday the Feast of the Presentation of Christ in the Temple, otherwise known as Candlemas. Well, today we are going to, before this meeting, as it were, present to God in memory, two men that you will all know. First of all, Mike Goff and Steve Whitehouse. And there will be a minute's silence during the middle of the prayer. And then at the end of the minute, I will conclude the silence with the closing part of the prayer. So let us pray. Heavenly Father, we ask you that as your only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, was presented in the temple in the substance of our flesh, so we may be presented to you with pure and clean hearts. We also today remember before you Mike Goff and Steve Whitehouse, giving thanks to you for them and all that they did in their lives. Father, all these prayers we offer to you through Jesus Christ, your Son and our Lord. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, I'd like to remind everyone that the full council meeting is being broadcast live over the internet, so please be aware we're all on camera. Be aware that you may be visible on screen when people around you are speaking. There's no need for members to stand as the cameras are focused on people sitting down. And can you remember to speak clearly into your microphones, please? I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting today, councillors, officers, members of the press and public, inspector from the police, and anyone watching the meeting via the webcast. Please can you make sure that your mobile phones and all noisy devices are put on silent. If there's an emergency alarm, please follow the green signs and go to the ground floor at the Civic Car Park. If we have any motions or amendments during the meeting, I need them to be clear, please, before we go to the vote. Agenda item 1, attendance. The attendance register is going around the room. Please can all members sign it and pass it on. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. Lead Officer for Council, Richard Gwinnell. Have we had any apologies?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Alan Jones, Councillor Graham Smith, Councillor Barry Taylor, Councillor Keith James.
Members, are there any other apologies? Councillor Morby?
Councillor Jessica Powell.
I'd like to send congratulations to Councillor Jessica Powell and her partner Nathan as well on the birth of their beautiful baby daughter Mariana. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Monitor Officer Linda Willis, do you have any advice for members, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not aware of any interest, save that the leader has alerted me to the fact that he's giving an answer to question 6, I think it is, at item 14, that's member question time, and it relates to the Shared Resource Services Business Solutions Company. That's the trading company, and of course the leader is appointed by the Council as a director of that company, so that would be a personal interest. Thanks.
Okay, members, do you have any interest to declare? Councillor Rees?
I'd just like some advice from the Monitoring Officer regarding agenda item 11, where I am a nominee. So should I vote in that or not?
Sorry, Councillor Rees, I didn't catch the last bit. You're a nominee of...
I'm a nominee for the appeals panel, and therefore I'm asking, should I vote on that agenda item or not?
Councillor Rees, shall I have a look at that and come back to you before we reach that agenda item? And I won't hold up the meeting then. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to agenda item 4, minutes of the 25th of November 2014. Can someone move that the minutes are correct? Are we all agreed? Thank you, members. The minutes are agreed. Agenda item 5, minutes of the 9th of December 2014. Can someone move that the minutes are correct? We all agreed? Thank you, members. The minutes are agreed. Agenda item 6, update on actions. Members, the updates on what has been done to implement our previous decisions start on page 35 of the agenda. Are there any comments or questions? Is everyone happy to note the decisions? Thank you, members. They are noted. Agenda item 7, receipt of petitions. We have no petitions for today, so we'll move on to the next agenda item 8, public question time, and we have no public questions for today either, so we'll move on to agenda item 9, announcements. Leader, do you have any announcements today, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got a number of announcements, and we'll be here for some time, I think. The first one is I have an announcement regarding Andrew Macy. So if you could please come down or come forward, Andrew, just sit there for a moment. Most members will know our head of procurement, Andy, having seen him at various members' meetings. Andy has been head of procurement during Torfaen since 2006, having joined us from Rhondda and Taff. He has over 36 years' experience of local government. Andrew has been a member of the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply since 1984 and represents Wales on the Executive Committee of the Society of Procurement Officers in London at the SOPO. He's been the chairman of the Welsh Purchasing Consortium Officers Group since 1996 and has given a significant amount of support to the Value Wales. He's provided support for the creation and appointment of staff to the Welsh Procurement Initiative Team, which was the organisation that predated Value Wales. Andrew represents local government on a number of steering and working groups. He is currently the chairman of the Training and Development Steering Group, a member of the National Procurement Service Delivery Group, and a member of the ESF Project Board. Recently, he's been nominated by one of his peers, he doesn't know who, to become a Fellow of the Procurement Best Practice Academy. This nomination was approved, and last month he was awarded with his fellowship by Jane Hutt at an event held in the University of South Wales. I thought it was important that Torfaen also recognise this achievement at this council. The certificate states that Andrew Macy has been awarded the Fellowship of the Procurement Best Practice Academy in recognition of an outstanding contribution to the procurement and supply chain management practice. I'd like now to Andy to come forward to receive a certificate which the council wants to give him in recognition of what he's done. Well done. Give him a clap. Well done. The next, quite long, but it's necessary and important that I say the things I'm going to say about to other people that many of us have worked with over the years. I'd like to take the opportunity to say a few words on three men who's made a significant impact on the council and the local community. First, it is with great sadness that I must pay tribute to the head of training standards, Steve Whitehouse, who passed away last week following a heart attack. Many of us have known and worked with Steve for many years, and he'll be sadly missed. This is a life-cut tragedy, short, and our sincere condolences and thoughts are with his family and his colleagues in public protection. Secondly, I must pay tribute to our MP Paul Murphy, who last Friday announced that he'll stand down at the general election in May. Paul grew up in Abersychan, studied at Westmont School and Oxford University before entering and starting a career as a lecturer at Evervale College. He joined the party in 1915 and became the Fairwater Ward and party secretary of this constituency. It's been an honour to work with Paul on many issues over the years. Paul has served the community, his party and his borough with dedication and distinction. There's no doubt Paul has been one of the most important and influential Welsh politicians of his generation. Paul's modesty, diplomacy, empathy and intelligence, as recognised by successive Labour Prime Ministers and politicians of all colours and nationalities. Even those who disagreed politically with him respected his sincerity and his genuineness. It is a testimony to Paul's role in bringing and maintaining peace in Northern Ireland that is universally remembered with warmth and respect throughout the province. Ed Miliband described Paul as one of the most respected and liked members of Parliament, a man of integrity and honour, diligent and passionate, and driven by a burning commitment to social justice and to the creation of a fairer Britain. I'd like to mention just a few of Paul's notable career achievements. After serving on Torfaen Borough Council, that's this council, for 14 years, Paul was elected as an MP in 1987, succeeding influential backbench parliamentarian and his friend, Leo Absey. Paul Murphy served in the Labour shadow front benches under Neil Kinnock, John Smith and Tony Blair, before serving as a cabinet minister under Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. Paul was Labour's opposition spokesman, fighting against the poll tax, as a Minister for Political Development in Northern Ireland under Mo Molan. Paul chaired the talks leading to the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. Paul was then promoted to become Secretary of State for Wales in 1999, giving Wales a strong voice in Cabinet at the UK level. In 2002, Paul returned to Northern Ireland as Secretary of State before leaving the government in 2005. Paul was then appointed Chair of the Intelligence and Security Committee, working with the intelligence services and reporting on issues including the 7/7 terrorist attack in London. Paul was appointed as Secretary of State for Wales by Gordon Brown in 2008. During this time in the Cabinet, Paul was also Minister for Digital Inclusion. Since leaving government, as well as taking up important issues in Torfaen and in Parliament, such as speaking out against the bedroom tax, Paul has been asked to advise a number of other countries aiming to resolve conflict, build peace and establish democratic institutions, including the Sierra Leone, Israel and Palestine and the Philippines. Most recently, he was appointed as the Oxford Associate by the Welsh Government in 2012 producing a report into Oxford administration, focusing on improving support for our brightest students. I'd personally like to thank Paul for his immense contribution to our party and to the variety of life in the Valley. We are very lucky to have and had Paul as an MP. I have no doubt that Paul will continue to play a full role in his community, in the Labour Party and in the politics more broadly in the borough. Finally, I'd like to pay tribute to another member of the Fairwater branch, initially but then he moved, of the Labour Party, who also became the chair of the Borough Finance Committee and graduate from Oxford, the former councillor for Llantarnam, Mike Goff, known to most of us as lovely Mike Goff. It would be with great sadness that we recently informed that Mike had passed away peacefully at his home in Llantarnam. Myself, Mike and Paul go back a very long way to that Fairwater branch of the Labour Party and a formative conversation in the Fairwater House pub, now shut by the way. The first thing to say about Mike is that he was a remarkable and rounded character. We became friends through our shared vision of socialism and remained friends until his death. From a young man until his final days, we would discuss at length politics and all manners of subject on the phone and over a pint, and treasured all our conversations. Mike had a shrewd political brain. No arena of political philosophy was out of bounds, and his hunger for knowledge never dwindled. As a young man, both of us sold the Tribune on the streets, on marches, together, driven by equality, social justice, and a camaraderie which saw us champions every cause from Aldermaston to Vietnam to solidarity campaigns. Outside politics, Mike was a determined and gutsy rugby player. The self-proclaimed mad dog Mike Goff, and his passion for the sport stayed with him all his life. He was a devoted player, official, and fan at the Cwmbran Rugby Club, football club, and through rugby he made friends across the UK, Ireland, France, Italy, and so many other places that he visited. And in glove with rugby, and in the best tradition of Wales as Barleys, Mike used to like to sing in choirs. He was a member of many choirs, but most recently the Gwent Police Choir, and he was always a particularly good compare with the audience and his friends. Mike was also a skilled and experienced pattern maker and a strong trade unionist in his 30s. Mike returned to education, studying at College Alnwick, which would lead to a place at Oxford University and a highly prized bursary to expand his studies in the USA. Many of you will know Mike. He was an accomplished after-dinner speaker, singer and compere. Mike spoke at my daughter's wedding, and he had the entire room in tears of laughter with his razor-sharp wit and his self-deprecating style. Many of Mike's jokes would be finished with his own joyful laughter, which was in itself infectious. But despite his wit, Mike was actually a very serious person who thought deeply about all matters. His opinions were always researched thoroughly, and he spoke with great conviction. His writings was articulated as an articulation of his spoken word. Once his trust was given, he would be a valued friend to whom he could offer the most objective and reasonable counselling of anyone that I've ever known. He was a perfectionist with a craving for detail and accuracy, and his harshest critic was himself. Mike was elected as a councillor to 3 councils: Cwmbran Urban District Council, Torfaen Borough Council, and Torfaen County Borough Council. I count myself fortunate to have been a friend of Mike's and to have known someone with such generosity of spirit. I know I speak for Paul Murphy, by the way, when I'm saying this, because Paul is very upset about Mike's death. So I give you Mike Goff, socialist, trade unionist, artisan, Oxford scholar, politician, rugbyman, chorist, raconteur, wit, friend, father, poet, Renaissance man, and the dearest friend, My fondest regards goes to my family, who can be proud of his achievements and the difference he made to making the world a better place. Very, very sad passing, which everybody is very concerned about and hurt. But there you are, these things go on. And his funeral now is within a fortnight. That's that one, Madam Mayor. I think that's... oh, I've got another one here. I don't know if I do it now. I do it in association with item 10, actually, which is appointment of a new member of Ethics and Standards Committee. I want to thank Mark Waters for his excellent and diligent service to the Council as an independent member of the Ethics and Standards Committee over the last 8 years. He served the 2 consecutive terms and so is obliged to retire under the regulations. I know that members of the Council are committed to high standards of behaviour and that the committee is equally committed to helping members maintain those standards. We now have a new independent member, Mr Andrew Walsh, and I welcome him to the Council. That's my announcements, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Chief Executive, do you have any announcement?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to echo the Leader's comments on behalf of the staff about Steve Whitehouse and how tragic it is that he will not now be able to enjoy the retirement he was looking forward to with his family. He was a dedicated and hard-working person, really committed to the public good, passionate about his service, and he was everything that a local government officer should be. He did so many things in a quiet way for the benefit of the residents of Torfaen. He'll be very much missed by his colleagues, and all the staff send their condolences to his family, and I've written personally to his wife to express those feelings. So we will just want to pay tribute to an excellent colleague. Thank you.
Thank you. We move on to agenda item 10, Standards Committee, appointing new independent members. Linda Willis, Chief Legal Officer and Monitoring Officer, can you present your report for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you've heard, one of our independent members on the Ethics and Standards Committee is due to retire, and this report asks Council to appoint the existing reserve Mr Andrew Walsh in his place for a term of 4 years, and also for the sort of efficient running of the committee to establish a standing interview panel, which is in accordance with the regulations, for the next vacancy, which will come up at the end of this year. So we must have a candidate in readiness to take over. And that interview panel will be the chair, another independent member, 2 of the elected members and the community council representative on the committee. So that's my report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions or comments? No. The recommendations are shown on page 41 of the agenda. We are asked to appoint Andrew Walsh as a new independent member of the committee for a 4-year term and to appoint a panel to interview potential new recruits in the future. Can I have a show of hands, please? Everyone for? Thank you, members. That's unanimous. Agenda item 11, Appeals Panel Membership, Appointment and Removal of School Governors. Dermot McChrystal, Head of Education Services, can you present your report for us, please?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, just before it starts, I've caught up with Councillor Rees now and his query about an interest. No, there would be no interest. It's our normal appointment process. There's no monetary consideration or anything here. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is to seek approval for the membership of the Appeals Panel linked to the protocol for the appointment and removal of local authority appointed school governors, but only local authority appointed school governors. Cabinet approved a protocol for that for the appointment and removal of local authority appointed school governors even in July 2014. That protocol suggested that we should have an executive member other than the member for education, one other elected member and one member of the Torvine Association of School Governors. The nominations are there in 4.3, and they are the executive member being Councillor David Daniels, the elected member Councillor Jeff Rees, and tasked last week selected Ron Marchant, who is the Chair Governors at Abersacan School. So members are asked to approve that list.
Members, do you have any questions or comments? No? Okay, the recommendation is on page 44. We are asked to appoint Councillor David Daniels, Councillor Jeff Rees and Mr Ron Marchant to the appeals panel until further notice. Can I have a show of hands, please? Everyone for? Okay, thank you, members. That's unanimous. Thank you. Dermot. Agenda item 12, revised members ICT support package. Richard Edmonds, Head of Strategic and Democratic Services. Can you present your report for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Morning, members. You'll know that the Independent Remuneration Panel require that councillors should be given as much support as is necessary to enable them to fulfil their duties effectively, and that this should be without cost to the individual member. It would obviously not be practical for this support to be open-ended, and as a result, the Democratic Services Committee is expected to define reasonable. In relation to IT, this has historically been set out within the members' ICT support package that you'll all be familiar with. In April last year, and for the reasons set out in section 4.5 of the report, Council agreed to update its members' ICT support package to include PC tablet and smartphone technology, as the existing offering was felt no longer fit for purpose. Having made this decision, Council sensibly commissioned a pilot of devices, and the outcome of that pilot is set out within the main body of the report. It took place over the autumn and included Windows and Apple devices, and pilot participants have reported significant benefits from using the technology in both their democratic and representative roles. Some of those are set out in the main body of the report, along with a number of areas that members felt could have been improved. Based on the positive outcome of the pilot, the recommendation being put to Council from the Democratic Services Committee seeks to include both Windows and Apple devices in the support package, rather than simply settling on a single platform. As a result of the difficult financial situation that the Council is facing, members did not want to pursue a big bang rollout of PC tablets, choosing instead to only replace their current laptops at a point when they reach end of life. With regard to the smartphones, however, the opportunity does exist to fund devices for members from a one-off in-year underspend generated by the SRS. The committee felt that this funding, combined with the wide range of benefits offered by smartphones and the current disparity in telephony provision for members, was a strong reason to take a different approach to that of laptops. With this in mind, the recommendation is that all members are issued with smartphones as swiftly as practical, although it should be noted the Council is currently in the process of changing its existing telephony contract, and that needs to conclude before we can fulfil that requirement. And on that basis, Madam Mayor, I'll finish up.
Thank you, Richard. Members, have we had any questions or comments? Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank Richard Edmonds for the way he's taken that proposal forward. I'd like to say in response to some of the sort of public debate on this issue that people are quite right to expect us to seek value for money and to be frugal in what we spend on ourselves as a council, especially in such tough financial times, and I hope and trust these proposals will be taken forward as Richard Edmonds has just explained in that spirit. That's why, for example, many members have recognised the financial situation, including all Labour councillors, and we've refused the recommended pay increase this year. It's also why, as a council, we've targeted spending on senior management and the cost of council office accommodation over recent years, recognising that we have to cut our cloth accordingly, especially at a time when local services are under a great deal of pressure. However, it's important to get the facts right about what these proposals are and what they are not. This will not be something extra for councillors. It's merely a replacement when existing items expire. The different devices that have been researched, and I'd like to thank those who have taken part in researching this, we have to be aware that there are certain false economies that can be raised. For example, Android tablets may seem on the face of it to be cheaper, but once you include the cost of software, network access and things like that, they actually become more expensive. So I'm glad that the pilot's been able to sort of resolve some of those questions as well. Indeed, these proposals should be seen as an opportunity to save money, as opposed to the huge cost of printing out large agenda documents for every meeting across a 4 or 5 year term for a councillor. The cost of a tablet or a smartphone to help them exercise their duties is a great saving. They also, of course, represent an opportunity to help councillors do our jobs better, both in our wards and in the chamber holding the council to account. And that's something, as an executive member, I don't think we should forget, that it's the job of the council to allow councillors to properly scrutinise us and to give them the tools they need to do that job. So I'd like to thank councillors and Richard Edmonds for the balanced way this has been taken forward. I say again, people are quite right to expect us to be very frugal and very careful with what we spend on ourselves as a council. However, I believe this is the most pragmatic and value for money way forward to take these proposals forward and to equip councillors to do their jobs properly and cost effectively.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Burnett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for that, Richard. I'm glad you highlighted about the laptops. We will use them till the end of the day till the iPads come in, because as we know, the media sometimes aren't very fair for what they print in the papers, and I'm sure as members we've all had a bit of a backlashing off it. And the ones of us that do have the council phones, the Nokias, we do pay our own personal calls on it anyway. That's for the public to know that we don't take everything for granted, and we do pay our own personal use on it. With the iPhones, as you said, the perception of people out there is we have all this up-to-date technology, but as you said, it is to update us on the way we work as well, make it the way we work smarter. If we want to take a photograph, we can put it straight into the offices instead of taking the time to come up and take it off our phones. But I'm glad that you've put it out that we won't be having these iPads until our laptops are actually unfit for use. Thanks very much.
Okay, Councillor Rees.
Plaid Cymru supports the idea of giving members the tools they need to do the job. Having said that, the Plaid Cymru group has for a long period of time used our own computers and our own phones and paid our own contracts, and we'll continue to do that going on in the future.
Okay. The recommendations are on page 51 of the agenda. We are asked to adopt the members' ICT support package in Appendix 3 of the report and to agree to replace existing standard phones with an appropriate smart alternative as soon as practically possible. Can I have a show of hands, please? Everyone for? Anyone against? 1. Okay, anyone abstaining? No. Thank you, members. That's agreed. Agenda item 13, motions on notice. Councillor Hugh Bevan, can you present your first motion for us, please? It is shown on page 57 of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The motion is fairly self-explanatory, so I'll just read it out verbatim. Given that the Welsh Government is working in partnership with BT, backed by European funding through its Superfast Wales programme, and Torfaen's recent backing for superfast broadband rollout in Blaenavon and Tallywarn, this Council agrees to submit a letter to BT calling for the upgrade to superfast broadband as soon as possible, as there is both a demographic and business need within Llanarafon and Llanfrecffer. The rationale behind this was I attended a recent meeting of the Llanfrecffer Village Association, and I was very surprised and appalled to learn that there's a lack of high-speed fibre optic broadband service provision for residents in parts of Llanfrecffer and Llanarafon. And I've been advised by members of that committee that apparently BT Openreach didn't have any definitive plans yet for a service provision to these areas. Within Lanfrecvre, there are 3 technology companies and 1 property company that I know of require high-speed broadband service provision to operate efficiently. The landlord of the Gate Public House also informed me that their internet connection had been so slow and lacking bandwidth, they'd been forced to order a separate phone line just to deal with customer payments to allow them to be processed, as one line could not cope with simultaneous customer payments, phone calls and broadband access. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? No? Oh, sorry, Councillor Mills. Okay, members, do you have any comments or questions? Councillor Morby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment, please, to the motion, which effectively is to delete all words after BT, the second reference to BT in the motion. So deleting the words from calling for the upgrade, etc., and replacing those with the following: submit a letter to BT asking for their plans and timescales for providing superfast broadband in all areas of Torvine not currently receiving such a service. And the reason for my amendment is actually to, in effect, support, I think, what Hugh is trying to do, albeit to make it on a wider basis than Lanfrecvre and Llanarafon. And I think I know of other authorities where approaches have been made to BT in order to try and ensure that there is a plan for developing broadband within their areas. And I've been informed by Richard Edmonds that, in fact, Matt Lewis intends doing that in respect of Torvine as well, which I think is absolutely the right thing. What we need to know is what are BT's plans, and we need then to try and make sure that the sorts of problems that Hugh has referred to occurring in Lanfrecvre and Llanarafon are solved, but equally across all of Torvine and not simply in those 2 areas. So I'm hoping that Hugh will accept the amendment as one which broadens it out in such a way that we can put pressure on BT to actually develop the service for the whole of the borough. But I think Hugh's initiatives in actually bringing this to our attention is very laudable, but I'm keen to have broadband in Portnewydd as well, and I'm sure colleagues would want superfast broadband in their constituencies also. So that's my amendment. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Morby, is it seconded? Okay, thank you. Members, would you like to debate on it? No. Councillor Bevan, would you like to come back in?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to accept Councillor Morby's amendment to the motion.
Can I have a show of hands then? Everyone in favour for? Thank you, members. That's unanimous. Okay, Councillor Bevan, would you like to present your second motion for us, please, which is shown on pages 57 and 58 of the agenda?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I recently attended part 1 of a leadership training course, residential, held down in Swansea, and I met some very interesting councillors there from across all other councils within Wales. And one of the councillors there, I was speaking to, it was actually a Labour colleague, but he had put forward a very good motion in Bridgend. And again, it's fairly self-explanatory, but I think it's one that we should endorse as a council to recognise the service of former armed forces veterans and their families, especially in recognition of what they had to go through for the nuclear tests. Many of these men died as a result of their exposure, about 19,000. But I'll read the motion. I'm proposing that the Council notes its commitment to the armed forces veterans and their families to ensure that the needs of those residents in the borough of Torvine who serve or who have served the country are recognised and supported at a local level. That many of the residents have, through a range of professions, served their country in equally significant measure in participating in the testing of Britain's nuclear weapons in the 1950s and the 1960s. And that following a Ministry of Defence commissioned health needs audit in 2011 of British nuclear test veterans, the NHS have introduced a number of practical measures to support them. I propose that the Council believes that other parts of the public and voluntary sector should seek to introduce similar measures to support nuclear test veterans, and that Torfaen County Borough Council should work with partners at a local level to support those nuclear test veterans who live in the borough of Torfaen. The Council resolves to write to the local AM and MP outlining the Council's position, write to the Welsh Government Minister for Health and Social Services and the Welsh Government Minister for Local Government and Government Business, stating this Council's support. The rationale behind this: in summary, this motion is about showing solidarity and support for the veterans who participated in the nuclear tests in the 1950s and 1960s, in recognition of the survivors of Britain's nuclear tests from the 50s and 60s and their descendants in need. I believe we have a moral duty to recognise the dangers and sacrifices endured by these men and their descendants, to ensure that justice is seen to be done for the thousands of brave men, many of them on national service, who were ordered to witness repeated nuclear tests as British scientists tried to build atomic and hydrogen bombs. It is now clear from the convincing evidence given by the ex-servicemen that they were neither adequately protected nor properly made aware of the dangers to which they were exposed. The only advice offered to the men was to put their hands over their eyes and to turn their backs to the explosives. Some of the veterans, as a result of their illness, went on to make the ultimate sacrifice, whilst other veterans of the blasts had increased rates of cancer and rare diseases. In a Ministry of Defence health assessment audit carried out in 2011, it was established that their descendants are 6 times more likely to develop cancers and leukemia, along with unusual skin conditions, and 10 times the normal rate of birth defects, including musculoskeletal problems. By agreeing this motion, Torfaen would join with Bridgend County Borough Council in Wales to recognise that all local authorities have a duty of care to the veterans and their descendants in need, both on a local and a national level. And it would also send a clear and concise message from this chamber, and on behalf of the communities members represented, we should recognise the debt and now honour our obligations to these people and their families in need, and also to offer some clear light to those that witnessed and were present in the shadow of the bomb. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bevan. Is the motion seconded? Yes, Councillor Moorby, thank you. Members, do you have any comments or questions? No? Okay, can we have a show of hands? Everyone in favour for? Thank you, members. That's unanimous. Agenda item 14, member question time. There are 9 member questions for today. The questions are shown on the sheet circulated. First question is from Councillor Bevan. Would you like to ask
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following on from my email on the 13th of January via the members' referral scheme to the Executive Committee regarding an email received from UNESCO whereby they proposed a solution for Torfaen to have a full LED conversion for street lighting within the borough at no capital outlay to this council. Please will the executive member confirm that this option will be explored more fully? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to answer the question?
Thank you, Hugh, for that. Can I say that the approach from UNESCO is not unusual. We do get these sort of things from all different organisations and the Council receiving such offers of service on a regular basis. The offer by this company is that of an energy service company, ESCO, and the use of such a company has been considered by the Council in the past. Such an approach can assist in providing capital funding, but the drawbacks of such arrangements is the initial resource implications in procuring the contract and the subsequent monitoring and revenue implication of that contract. Such a scheme is also considered to be less flexible in responding to change. In order to make energy efficiency improvements to the street lighting asset, the approach the authority has taken and has been to take advantage of the SALEX interest-free loans available from the Welsh Government. These loans allow us to borrow money to improve the asset, provided the improvements have an approved payback period. We have secured approximately £544,000 through this method to date, resulting in the replacement of approximately 3,800 lighting units, with costs energy efficiency lighting units falling. Previously, unviable changes can now be financially viable, and we are undertaking an exercise to determine what the units within our asset would qualify for SALEX funding, with a view to submitting a further bid if appropriate. Improving energy efficiency is an integral part of the provision and maintenance of the street lighting asset, and we will continue to make these improvements where appropriate.
Thank you. Councillor Bevan, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I don't have any supplementary. I would just ask if Councillor Cunningham could let me have a copy of his response in writing, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham, can you turn your microphone off, please?
Oh, sorry. But I was just about to say, Councillor Bevan, that answer will be reproduced in full in the Council minutes.
Okay, Councillor Robert Kemp, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 19th of November 2014, Torfaen County Borough Council indicated that they would be conducting a rough sleepers count in order to monitor progress to eliminate the need to sleep rough over a period of time. In addition, a questionnaire-based survey was to be conducted over a 2-week period amongst all support agencies locally who could have contact with the aforementioned client group. A, would the Executive Member for Housing, Planning and Public Protection give a statement in regard to how the count was conducted and its outcome, and B, outline the results of the questionnaire-based survey that was duly carried out?
Councillor Gwynair-Clark.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kemp, for the question. Areas throughout Torfaen were identified that could potentially be used for rough sleeping. Example, car parks and industrial estate shopping centres, bus and train stations. These areas were visited and checked by staff between the hours of midnight and 2 a.m. on the 19th of November 2014. The outcome was that there was no one found to be rough sleeping in Torfaen at that time and on that date. The questionnaire was sent out to a number of partner agencies, including the following: all partners of the Homelessness and Supporting People Inclusive Forum, registered social landlords, Gwent Police and all other council departments. We received limited responses from partners over the 2-week period, but all responses identified that there were no known rough sleepers. Could I just remind members, if they are aware of any one that's potentially going to be a rough sleeper, and that might sound odd, but you would possibly know before the department. Can you please let us know? And thanks for that question, Councillor Kemp.
Councillor Kemp, do you have a supplementary?
No, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Haynes, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is for the Leader. Will the Leader make a statement on the rejection of council mergers by Leighton Andrews AM and the impact that decision could be having on Torfaen staff and on forward planning?
Leader?
Yes, thank you for that question. Well, my answer is, like all other council leaders who submitted voluntary mergers, I was naturally disappointed to hear that they would not be taken forward. However, I welcome the positive comments from the Minister about our leadership and about the ideas shared about how public services should be governed in the future. I remain of the opinion that for us as a council it was the right thing to put our self-interest aside and engage constructively with the Welsh Government's request. both for the best interests of the staff we employ and for the long-term viability of the services we provide for our local residents. After all, the people we serve and those we employed to serve them should always be the top priority for us as a council. We have to reflect now on what direction the Welsh Government wishes to take up with reorganisation, but I believe that we should continue to engage with them as constructively as we can. Indeed, many of the ideas contained in our future Council document can be part of that discussion. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank all those who played a part in our submission of interest, both in the Council and in Blaenau Gwent. I want to add a little bit more to this because I'm aware of certain things that has been taking place this morning. For instance, over at the Gwent Archives office in Blaenau Gwent this morning, Leighton Andrews is making his statement on his view on the Williams Commission. I've seen extracts from the document. It's a 200-page document that is his response to the Williams review. It covers all sorts of things. It's much, much too detailed to go into this morning. Once I've got the okay from the Assembly, I'm quite prepared to release those 20 to 25 points to all members of the Council so that they can understand the direction we're going in. I think his outline this morning covers everything apart from the map, which I think is going to be disclosed in June. But other than that, it's a very comprehensive analysis of the Williams report, and it gives you a very clear insight in terms of what the government want and how they see the governance of Wales panning out. So that's my answer to that one.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Haynes, do you have a supplementary question?
Not a supplementary, but yes, please, if you could distribute that once you've had approval. I think all members would be grateful to see that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ashley, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you. The question is, can this council consider replacing fencing, post and rail fences and similar fences in the state of this council with suitable native hedging as part of a council-wide hedging policy? And I will put the thing I haven't got there, where practical, and recognising there are safety implications. And I also put in the rider on there, which I think is probably reasoning behind it, which you can read yourself there, but it does say, would be dependent on identifying how much fence potential this would entail. My reason for asking this question is obviously on the basis of biodiversity and carbon sink planting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to answer this question?
Thank you for that, Stuart. Very interesting question. It is feasible to replace all fencing with hedgerow, and if Council was minded to ask Neighbourhood Services to consider this, we could undertake to exercise and identify all the fencing within the borough. The ownership of that fencing and the practicality of replacing with hedgerows in each specific location. There would inevitably be a cost to removing fences and planting hedges, and the ongoing annual maintenance cost of maintaining those hedges once in situ. Fences need to be maintained only periodically and replaced around every 10 to 15 years, and so they are, in the main, a low-cost solution to boundary management, whereas a living hedgerow would need to be actively managed annually. The Department, unfortunately, does not currently have any resources to do this.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Ashley, do you have a supplementary?
I do, in a way, but the answer is, it's been answered, but one question is, obviously, if we can't do it, is there any potential for looking at a partnership arrangement with the usual partners and the community? And because I think there might be a will on that one, and would you be prepared to look at that?
Yes, if you're talking about usual partners, you're talking about housing associations, community councils, etc. Yeah, we can look at that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cross, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you. What arrangements are being put in place to ensure that young people in English medium sixth forms halfway through their courses are not affected should the proposal to close their sixth form be implemented?
Councillor David Yole, would you like to come in?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the question and secondly make an observation that I don't, and I'm sure that the Education Service doesn't necessarily see it as an issue of closing sixth forms, but rather opening an all-purpose post-16 facility, and that's the most positive way to look at it. I can't give you the precise detail to the question that you perhaps would expect or want, because we are in the early stages of the process. The decision to submit a proposal, for example, is yet to be made. I am hopeful that Cabinet, along with the Board of Coleg Gwent, will take the decision next week. If they do, we will submit an outline case for approval. The strategic outline case introduces the basic project concept and contains enough detail to support an informed decision on whether to proceed to an outline business case. What this document includes is a preliminary assessment of strategic fit, options, value for money, affordability and achievability. What it doesn't do, however, is set out the detail of how change will be introduced. This will require significant engagement with stakeholders and will emerge as the business case process develops. However, as part of the transition process, the Council will ensure that if there should be any disruption, it will be kept to the absolute minimum. The Council has indeed a good record of successful transition arrangements for pupils and staff, and with a number of school reorganisation proposals already completed, has developed and delivered excellent transition plans. This experience will prove invaluable at the point where sixth form provision in schools is transferred to a tertiary model. Clearly, Year 12 pupils will be the focus of the transition, and it is the intention of the Council to work closely with both schools and Coleg Gwent to ensure that these students in particular receive the support necessary to facilitate a successful completion of their studies. Clearly, as the whole process unfolds, if you want to be kept informed, I'm more than happy to talk to you at every stage and perhaps keep in touch and watch your space.
Councillor Cross, do you have a supplementary?
I did, but bearing in mind your answer, I'll just point out that my concern was also those students that are choosing their GCSEs now and ensuring that those subjects exist when they get to the point where potentially this proposal comes into play. But if you're willing to have conversations with me in the future and keep me posted, then I'm satisfied to just carry on.
That's not a problem. It's not an issue. That promise is made seriously, and if you want to take me up on that's fine. But I will say this, that I don't think, given what I've said, clearly there are caveats, because we will be engaging with stakeholders, other interested people. We certainly, as far as Year 10 and options for GCSE particularly, because I understand the concerns there, but I don't see that there's anything that disruptive about the process that will knock them off kilter. In fact, the likelihood is that if we get the go-ahead for the new post-16 facility, there will be a broader choice of subjects, so that issue that is implicit in your concern doesn't necessarily arise. But on the issue of GCSE choices, we will be, that is we and the college will be in dialogue with the schools and pupils again to make sure that they know everything that they should know in advance. But we can't be any more exact than that for the reasons that I've already outlined.
Thank you. Councillor Hugh Bevan. Oh, sorry. Councillor Jeffrey. Sorry. Ahead of myself there.
No problem. Leader, will you update the Council on the activities of the SRS Business Solutions Limited?
Thank you for that question. The period since we last discussed the SRS Business Solutions in Council has been productive for the Council. We now have long-term rack rental contracts in place with 3 companies that will guarantee income up for a number of years. The company will generate a profit for 2014-15, as well as paying the 2 shareholding councils 54k each. This will take the cash paid back to the two shareholding councils in the last 3 full years to a trading profit of £139,000 and continue the upward trend. The Council is also currently discussing the expansion of an existing contract and a new contract that has been considered that has considerable potential to generate additional income for 2016. All in all, it's a very positive position.
Councillor Rees, do you have a supplementary?
Well, I'm glad to hear that at last things seem to be moving in the right direction. It's taken an awful long time. And with that in mind, I'm going to suggest that we look at the way that we assess risk around the SRS Business Solutions. And is it time now not just to deliver the day job, but to take greater risk to ensure that we can deliver bigger profits for the people of Torfaen?
I agree with that, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hugh Bevan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following the shocking and tragic events in Paris recently, please can the leader give assurances to the residents of Torfaen the Council are fully cooperating with the police and intelligence services to do all within their power to prevent such a terrorist incident from happening within Torfaen. Also, can the Cabinet write a letter endorsing this Council's unilateral support against terrorism and our expression of deepest sympathy for those victims of the terrorist actions to the Parisian government?
Thank you for that, Councillor Bevan. First, as leader, can I express our sympathies with the families of those killed in the shocking events in Paris? I can confirm that we cooperate fully with the relevant authorities to try to prevent any terrorist incidents occurring in Torfaen, including regular discussions at the G7 with the police and others to ensure that we work together to protect our citizens. In fact, the last G7 meeting spent a considerable amount of time listening to the Chief of Police explaining the current situation. We oppose and condemn terrorism in all its forms, and I would be happy to write a letter, Councillor Bevan's request, to the Mayor of Paris expressing our sympathy and solidarity with the victims and our support for those who defend free speech. I'd like to think that as a Council we can stand together to oppose all those who want to spread hatred. We must ensure that the actions of the terrorists do not damage community relations. So we reject those on the far right who want to use these terrible events to spread Islamophobia. The statement of the Muslim Council for Britain condemned the actions and those involved in the attack, stated clearly that the brutal murderers who attacked innocent people in Paris do not represent their religion. I believe, by the way, for some of those present, that I believe in hope, not hate.
Go supplementary, Councillor Bevan.
I just want to thank the leader for his response and say no, there's no further questions.
Thank you. Councillor Ashley.
Can this Council promote using all its communications and publications, road safety and other responsible sections, a local awareness campaign to encourage parents and pupils and carers, I forgot to put that bit in there, to walk and cycle to school?
Councillor John Cunningham.
Thank you, Stuart. Neighbourhood Services is proactive in its promotion of sustainable modes of transport, such as walking, cycling, in its attempts, among other things, to reduce the reliance on the private car. The option of walking and cycling to school is an integral part of the message given by the Highways, Transportation and Property Group as part of its road safety education programmes. And this has been the case for many years. Walking and cycling are a natural activity for many children, and our road safety messages given to children are about using these activities for the school trips, whilst remaining safe as pedestrians and cyclists. We currently offer Curbcraft, a child pedestrian training scheme to all schools, equipping over 1,000 children a year to be safer pedestrians. Similarly, we offer a cycle proficiency training to all primary schools to provide pupils with a basic competency in cycling, intended to encourage children to continue cycling when they are older. The Welsh Government advised that every school should have their own travel plan, and we work with schools to help them create this. Typically, an action within a plan would be to increase the percentage of children walking or cycling to school, and we assist in this by mapping out routes for pupils. Information within school travel plans often feed into bids to Welsh Government for safe routes in community schemes. and we have secured over £6 million worth of grant over recent years to construct schemes to remove barriers to the use of sustainable travel. We've also constructed off-road walking and cycle routes via other Welsh Government funding streams. We actively promote all these schemes that I've mentioned on a scheme-by-scheme basis, using all methods available to us, as we see appropriate to most benefit to us and the public. We also promote national campaigns such as Walk to School Week and Walk to School Month. More locally, we promote walking and cycling via our road safety presence at major community events such as the Cwmbran Big Event, World Heritage Day and Pontypool Carnival. We've also produced guidance on walking and cycling routes which is publicly available. More recently, the Active Travel Act, which has come into force, and as part of the Act is a legal requirement by local authorities in Wales to map and plan for suitable routes for active travel, with a view to further equipping the public with information for them to make informed travel choices. The mapping of these will build on the work we have undertaken to date and is currently ongoing. The communication methods above are felt to be appropriate at this time in promoting our work related to walking and cycling, so a specific campaign is not proposed. We will continue to consider our communications method related to this, seeking to continuously improve.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you very much for your full and informative answer. My specific question wasn't to supplement any of those. It was actually just to say that when we have the national campaign, that people were specifically aware of that. And that was what I meant by a local campaign, that we could actually make people aware that we were doing. It wouldn't be of any cost to anybody.
The reason why I made the answer so comprehensive, Councillor Ashley, is to try and stop you asking a supplementary.
Thank you. Councillor Rees.
Leader.
Yes, we are looking at that.
The Labour Minister for Public Services invited Torfaen Council to submit an expression of interest for voluntary council merger, which he has since rejected. How much money has it cost his council to submit the expression of interest?
Thank you for that question, Councillor Rees. In terms of cost, whilst developing the expression of interest took up a lot of time of officers for both council, there wasn't a direct financial cost, other than some minor printing expenses, and I'm sure that we have acquired some useful experiences from that process. Can I just say that whatever information we've gathered will be used in the future? Let me go back to square one. When all local authorities in Wales were asked the question, all parties, your party, my party, the Conservative Party, the Independents, the Liberals, and every one of them were asked whether they were in favour or not of reorganisation, every single party agreed that the status quo was not an option. Now, once you've said the status quo is not an option, that means there's change coming. Given the announcement that was made this morning at 9:30 by the Minister on the Williams Commission in terms of how he sees the future of local governance of Wales, then it's pretty obvious that the information that we've gathered will in some shape or form be used in future discussions about reorganisation. So there's no cost. We haven't lost anything. It's all valuable information. It's now about the time, about when it's used. And I did say earlier on that in June of this year, there will be a map that will come out. And when that map comes out, whoever we are linked with, the information that we've gathered will be very important.
Councillor Rees, do you have a supplementary?
I do indeed. I want to congratulate the leader on his defence of the indefensible. The fact of the matter is, it's a Labour government, and it's the Labour government's responsibility to set out what they want in terms of local government reform, and then Plaid Cymru will respond. The other point about it doesn't cost, I know that the senior management team of this council has spent weeks and weeks and weeks putting this proposal together, so there is a cost involved, and it's thousands of pounds. Now, let's not shy away from the fact that it's cost this local authority in terms of effort, motivation, leadership, all those things.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
I'm going to go on to my question now. I'm going to go on to my question now.
No, it's a bit late, I'm sorry. It's a statement, not a question.
Leader, do you agree?
And it's not appropriate that Councillor Rees should use question time as an opportunity to make a political statement in the way he's attempting to.
we have to just ask a supplementary
The supplementary
question.
is this. Leader, do you agree that the Labour Minister for Public Services and the Labour Government has led this council up the garden path and that the Labour Minister for Public Services has failed in his leadership role by changing a goalpost at the last minute? And isn't it right, therefore, the Labour Minister for Public Services should be sent the bill to pay for this, and the bill shouldn't be sent to the Torfaen Council taxpayers instead?
No, I obviously don't agree with that. I mean, there's been discussions right up and down this council, including councils that are Plaid Cymru-led, that have spent money and exercise on this. And that information that's been gathered will be used. You know, anybody that feels that reorganisation isn't coming, given the 200-page document that has been spelt out today in Ebervale, you know, well, that's just going to happen, whether you like it or whether you don't. And your party has been heavily engaged in different parts of Wales in assisting and drawing up plans and doing assessments and doing scoping and all the various things that every other local authority has done. And if you want to, I'll bring it back to the next council and draw your attention to the activities of Plaid Cymru in Wales and the work that they've done.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, members. Move on to next agenda item 15. Date of next meeting will take place on the 3rd of March 2015 at 10 a.m. in the Council Chamber. Agenda item 16, Cabinet decisions for the 20th of January. The Cabinet decisions start on page 59 of the agenda. There were no challenges to the decisions. Do members have any questions on the decisions? No. All okay to note the decisions? Yeah. Thank you, members. The Cabinet decisions are noted, and that's the end of the Council meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance and contributions. And if there's any interest, can you make sure that this is filled in on the appropriate form, please? Thank you.